Bad North is a real-time island defense style indie game produced by Plausible Concept. It incorporates a lot of elements of a traditional tower defense game with some real-time squad battle tactics thrown in. You were in charge of a clan of island dwellers and must defend a series of islands from a Viking invasion swarm before making your last stand on the last island before the mainland. The game is rather simple. You have three really, distinct unit types with which to defend your island from the numerous Viking raiding parties that beach on its shores. Militia are your starting base group, which can be upgraded into 3 different unit types, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. Swordsmen have shields and can block most ranged fire and can move and hit, but they can get overwhelmed. Pikemen can form a wall of death blocking the enemy's path, but can't attack while moving or defend themselves from arrows. Archers can pick off many an enemy from distance, but close the gap and are less than useless. The enemy hordes come in a variety of flavours too, from the standard cannon, or in this case pike, fodder, enemies to their own archers to shield-bearing troops. Extra variety comes in the form of brutes, who are gigantic enemies which require a lot of punishment to take down and come in their own archer format, wielding ballistas that can smack your troops from clear across the map. Each enemy requires its own strategy to deal with, and their aim is to conquer the island you're defending, either by killing all of your troops or burning down all of the buildings. At the end of each successful defense, these buildings give you a gold reward based on their size, which you can use to purchase upgrades for your commanders. Given how vital these upgrades are to you, it's quite important that you defend as many buildings on as many islands as you can. The game map shows the islands, and you have your choice of which to defend in order to proceed. After each level, your commanders have to rest for 1 turn, and this allows the Viking hordes behind you to catch up. If you spend 1 turn behind their lines, it's game over, so choosing your path through the islands wisely is a skill you'll have to learn if you want to get the end of this. Each island has its own unique layout and combinations of enemies to defend against, so you have some idea of what you're going up against before you play. Some islands give you items which can then be used for certain effects, like the Holy Grail item which brings a commander back to life, to equipable secondary weapons like mines or bombs. These can also be upgraded and can't be unequipped, so careful thinking is required before making any decisions. Some islands have their own local garrison commander who takes the place of one of your own commanders during the defence of that island. If completed, they'll join your ranks, giving you more units to choose from, although you can only field 4 at a time. The action itself is in real time. With the Viking enemies progressing slowly towards the island on their ships, you have to rally your troops into position in order to combat them. The attacks occur in waves with little respite in between, making the action quite fast and exciting. There's a real old school cannon fodder feel to the gameplay. Timing your units' recovery in the houses in between the waves of enemies can get really tense, especially when you're trying to hold off more than one wave with 3 or less units. So it's cute, fun and very enjoyable. But there are some issues. With the mechanics pared down to the bone like this, one of the consequences is that there's no real depth to anything the game presents. The combat often boils down to see this unit, use that unit. So tactically the game often plays like a very cutesy, incredibly bloody game of rock, paper, scissors. Using the terrain doesn't really have any tactical value other than the areas where you can funnel the enemy down to single file, and they're few and far between. The small walls in other areas that operate just as a barrier to movement and not something your troops can hide behind is a bit of a dick move, I thought. Also, the AI in the game suffers too from this unwavering aim at simplicity. With your unit's behaviour so rigidly designed, they're often capable of some really annoyingly stupid things, such as standing 1 square away from an enemy archer unit that's firing at them. Moving your units can be a bit of a mess too, especially anywhere near enemies. Your troops will always seek to run into the nearest enemy, regardless of what their relative strength or unit type. This will lead to such face-meltingly frustrating occurrences, such as a pikeman unit, who can't attack and move by the way, running headlong into an enemy sword unit and getting sliced to bits, despite the fact that the square you told them to move to was nowhere near the enemy. The inability to set waypoints for your troops along the way is a bit of an oversight. Another casualty to this lack of depth is one of the game's main selling points as a roguelike. Its replayability. The first run I did that I completed, I wound up getting most of the items and a fair number of the commander's traits, which meant that there was no real point in me replaying the game just to get the remaining 1 or 2. I wasn't going to find out anything new. This ended in me getting little under 8 hours out of Bad North, which is actually a bit more than you'd get out of a lot of modern AAA releases, so there is that. But it's a bit counterintuitive to create a pared down roguelike with virtually no replayability. Bad North doesn't push any boundaries, but it's a very enjoyable little game with a surprising amount of fun packed into its small form. Everything about it is balanced very well. The cutesy graphics and the cute sprites belie the scenes of bloody carnage that are about to happen. The stripped down tactics and rock paper scissors battles are balanced out by the hectic pace of combat. If you're a fan of squad based tactic games like Cannon Fodder or other roguelikes such as FTL or Into the Breach, then you'll find an awful lot to like with Bad North. Pick it up, crack open some mead, and you're in for a very, very fun time.